Jagged. Since in the end, the whole path is about consciousness, then the whole path is about consciousness. All the other things you get into in between are just because you're lost. There are things you're given to do to try to gradually move back toward consciousness. But if you're wise, you won't get involved in a trillion, billion practices, beliefs, which do nothing but keep you from where you're going when it's all said and done. In the end, the most direct path is consciousness. What does that mean? You are conscious. Fortunately, you don't have to learn to be conscious or somehow figure out how to become conscious. You're conscious. It is not a question of being conscious. It is a question of what you are conscious of. The light is always shining. The question is, what is it shining on? You get a perfect picture of the path if you view your consciousness as the light of consciousness. When a light shines on something, it illumines it. In this particular case, when the light of consciousness shines on something, it not only illumines it, but it becomes aware of it, and it identifies with it. So if the light shines on something beautiful, it feels beautiful. If the light shines on something old, it feels old. If the light shines on something expansive, it feels open. If it shines on something contractive and small, it feels small. That's all that's happening. Your consciousness is always there, always. You wish it wasn't, but it is. It's always there. The question is, what is it conscious of? Now, wouldn't it be so bad if you could just choose what you were conscious of? Well, that's not what happens. Consciousness goes to whatever attracts it. Consciousness goes to where it feels it needs to do its work, or it feels it has an issue or a problem. And since there are many issues and many problems and many disturbances, your consciousness gets split into many, many different things. If you think I'm talking about things in the world, you've got about 2% of it. Yes, your consciousness is constantly being drawn to different things in the world. There are things you are for and things you're against, things you're afraid of and things that you're desirous or attracted to. What does it mean to be attracted to something? It means if it comes anywhere within 1,000 feet of your consciousness goes right there. It attracts your consciousness. If there are things that you're afraid of, things that you don't want to deal with, it's interesting, they also attract your consciousness. If you doubt that, I always give you the challenge. I have a giant 22-foot rattlesnake. Big snake. I'm sorry, but your karma is such that you're going to be within 5 feet of that snake while it's free. Do you want the 5 feet to be in front of you or behind you? Where would you rather have that snake? 5 feet behind you or 5 feet in front of you? There's no question about it, is it? There's not one of you going to stay behind you. I want it there. Why? I thought you don't like it. Yeah, I want to see it. Just the act of seeing it makes you feel like you got some control over something, don't you? Therefore, that which you don't like, your consciousness is attracted to. But it's not attracted to it because you want it. It's attracted to it because you don't want it. And so it watches it. It puts it in front of it so it can keep it away from it. It's the funniest thing in the world when you watch it. Let's say you just got divorced and you were invited to a party and you don't want your ex to be there. And you don't like your ex. Obviously, you don't want to be where your ex is. Isn't it funny that when you go to the party, all you do is look for him or her? And you ask people, have you seen him? Have you seen her? It's just the most amazing thing in the world. So that which you are attracted to draws your consciousness because you want to be with it. It's attractive to you. That which you are repulsed by, that which you are afraid of, that which you are disturbed by, draws your consciousness because you want to keep away from it. It's just so poignant and funny. Because you want to keep away from it, you watch it so you can keep away from it. Really weird. But it's true, isn't it? So your consciousness is drawn to that which distracts it. It's that simple. And you are distracted to things if you're attracted to them, if you want them, if you need them, you're desirous of them. And you are distracted by things if you're afraid of them. So now you're constantly, my God, if you watched it, if you could be conscious enough to watch how often your consciousness is distracted from what you're doing. A noise comes, what's that? A sight comes, what's that? A person comes, who's that? Smell, sight, touch, sound, anything that comes in through the senses that you either want or don't want. All of a sudden your consciousness is drawn off of what it's doing. How come you're not finished? I got distracted. You say that every day. What does that mean, I got distracted? Such a simple thing to say. That is not simple. That is as deep as it comes. The day that you understand and see what's happening when you say, I got distracted, is the day you are truly on the road to enlightenment. Because what you're saying is that I am consciousness, and my consciousness was focused on something. Something else came and stole my consciousness from what it was focused on. I got distracted. How often do you get distracted? If you could watch, you'd be scared to death. How often do you get distracted? The outside world distracts you, which is that which you're attracted to and that which you're repulsed by. But that's nothing. That's like 2 or 3%. What you're distracted by is your feelings. You're sitting there looking at something and all of a sudden some fear or some love or some anxiety or some tension or something comes up inside, doesn't it? And all of a sudden that's got your attention. That's nothing. What you're really distracted by is your thoughts. And this is when you're really getting conscious, when you notice that. All day you have these things called thoughts. How many thoughts do you have a day? Ever count them? You better laugh. Why? You count all kinds of things. Why don't you count your thoughts? So the net result is you have a lot of them, don't you? How many do you have at once? You ever have more than one thought going on at once? I better see your pearly whites. I mean, they're just very prolific in there. There's lots of them. You have so many thoughts going on. You have thoughts waiting to come on stage. And you know it. You kind of put them in the background on the stack. In the minute they got a little room, they pop in, don't they? And you know they're there. You're just not giving them the energy at that moment. You have thoughts in the foreground, thoughts underneath, thoughts above. You have thoughts flying around all the time, don't you? There are lots of thoughts, and they distract your consciousness constantly. The ultimate example, you're sitting there reading. At least you were reading. You've turned the page 4 times before you realize you didn't read a word. Your eyes passed over it. You read, you mechanically turned the page, but not a single thing got into your consciousness. All of a sudden, you come back, you turn your pages back. What happened? You realize that somewhere's in between the words that said, and then he got on a train that was headed toward Bangalore. And your thoughts started, God, I wish I could go to India. Can you imagine I could go to the ashrams and thing? The pages are turning. That's what happened. Some thoughts started getting made, and they caught your attention. Do thoughts catch your attention? Do thoughts take your attention away from what you're doing? Do you, quote, space out? Do you literally space out? You just go somewhere. Can somebody talk to you and you're really not all that interested in what they're saying? Right? What does that mean you're not interested in what they're saying? Well, what he was saying didn't keep my attention. What does that mean? Where'd your attention go? Into the thoughts. It was boring. It didn't keep my attention. My attention went... It didn't keep my attention. Oh, I love it so much. What do you mean keeping your attention? It means you have this thing called attention, consciousness, and it can be focused on anything. And a moment ago it was focused on the teacher or the lecturer. But then it didn't want to be there. The competition of the thoughts were stronger. They were more interesting. The thoughts about what you're going to do this weekend, the thoughts about what you did last week, the thoughts about your girlfriend, the thoughts about your boyfriend, the thoughts about whatever the heck you want to think about, was more attention-keeping, more attention-grabbing, more interesting than the attention you were supposed to be paying here. Everything we're talking about right now is the essence of spirituality. And the day that you make your spiritual path be about this is the day you will grow every single day of your life. Your entire spiritual path is about nothing but your consciousness. So right now, where's your consciousness? It's like herding cats. It goes wherever the world takes it. It goes wherever your mind takes it. Whatever catches its fancy, that's where the consciousness goes. And it's multiple places at once. Like, I'm kind of listening to you, but really I'm often here too. It's not like I'm totally somewhere else. I could be. Can you get so lost in a thought that you don't hear anything else that's going on in the room? Of course you can. Can you multitask? Sure. You're good at that. So net is, your consciousness goes places. Just like a light can go places. It shines into these different places. Your entire path is about coming into harmony with, in fact, coming into ownership of your consciousness. Right now, you don't own your consciousness. The things that attract your consciousness own your consciousness. It goes where it goes and takes you with it. And there ain't much you can do about it. If you're supposed to have this big project, but you got a fight with your girlfriend or boyfriend last night, and you're sitting there going to do this project, you're a basket case. Well, why just concentrate on the project? Why do you want to concentrate on the fight? You don't have a choice. Those thoughts are going to keep coming in there. Those emotions are going to keep coming up, and they're going to completely capture your consciousness, and you won't have any for what you're doing. That's what's going on with your life. And where you put your consciousness, that is your life. So since that's true, now we've painted that picture, your consciousness is scattered onto mind, emotions, and objects of sense, and you have almost no control over it at this point. Really, you don't. I mean, you can try all you want to meditate. Oh, no, and then you get up and it's gone already. All day, where is it? Which one of you could look me in the eye and tell me that you could tell me every single place your consciousness went today? Every thought, you should be able to. And there will be a day in which you can. If I asked you, where did your body go? What did you eat? I hope you'll be able to tell me that. You do pay enough attention to where your body went. You pay enough attention to what you put in your mouth. You should be able to know every single place your consciousness went all day. Because you are your consciousness. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is the objects of consciousness own the consciousness. They distract it, they capture it, and it goes there. And every once in a while, you come back and say, oh, what was I supposed to be doing? Then you're in control. And then it's gone. Then you're back. And then it's gone. And that's pretty much a person's life. Your entire path is to herd those cats. That's your entire path. Your entire path is to be what you are, which is a conscious being. Right now, you're kind of a conscious being, but your consciousness is distracted by all these other objects of consciousness. Therefore, it's scattered all over the place. Therefore, even though you have the potential for this centered consciousness, it is not being exercised. It's all over the place. What do you do? Well, what they give you to do is they give you all kinds of things to do. You know, scriptures and mantras and doing yoga. They give you so many things to do. But in reality, what they're really trying to do is get some semblance of control over your consciousness. If you have disciplined things to do on a regular basis, you will have to be conscious enough to do them. Like, for example, satsang, keeping morning and evening satsang. It is one of the foundations of true spiritual practice, is having regular, every morning, every evening, time that you put aside to do what? To harness your consciousness. That's what all the disciplines are. They are all an attempt to say, are you willing to assert will so that your consciousness goes where you decided it would go at a given point in time, instead of going wherever it's distracted to go? So you wake up, but I'm too tired, I'd rather sleep. Or your dreams keep you, or this, so the food keeps you. There are billion trillion things that can distract you from being where it is that you determined you were going to be. So your primary spiritual practice is about regaining your center of consciousness so that you become a conscious being instead of a scattered being whose consciousness is watered down because it's thrown all over the place, drawn all over the place by the objects of consciousness. If you set these disciplines for yourself, the power it has is the power that you discipline yourself to do it. The true power of a mantra is as follows. I'm sitting there saying, Guru Om, Guru Om, Guru Om, or whatever it is. God, God, God. And all of a sudden, there's a noise over there. The noise sounds a little bit like the noise I heard when I was 10, when I was down by the beach. My thoughts want to go there and start thinking about 10 down by the beach. So guess what happens? Since I have this commitment, guess what I just did with my consciousness? I said, We're not going over there. We're staying here. Whoa. What a thing to tell your consciousness. What a thing to assert willful control over where your consciousness is focused, instead of letting your consciousness be drawn to whatever thought, emotion, or object draws it. How powerful is that? If you assert your willful intent to regain the control over what you're conscious of, you will start to realize you are the consciousness. It will awaken you. It really has nothing to do with mantra. It doesn't make any difference. What matters is, if the consciousness is scattered all over the universe, inside and out, you have no power. Why? Well, for the same reason that water that's just spilt all over the ground just flows out and there's nothing there. It just absorbs, it does nothing. But if you have something that harnesses the water, that holds it together, and you keep pouring into it, it builds a force, it builds a power. It goes up, it rises up. You can use it to drive a windmill. You can do all kinds of things with harnessed water, can't you? You can do all kinds of things with centered consciousness. You can do nothing with scattered consciousness. This is your spiritual path, guys. Now, whether you do that practice through mantra, whether you do that practice through reading the Bible, whether you do that practice by keeping disciplined times for satsang or meditation, or all of the above, that's just something you have to decide, you have to deal with. But what it's all about is not those things. A true spiritual seeker understands that they are the consciousness and they want their soul back. Period. By hook or by crook. Their freedom has been taken away from them. Their life has been taken away from them. They don't have a life. They're owned by wherever the energy gets distracted. That's where they are. They can't get done what they want to get done. They can't succeed what they want to succeed at. And they can't become who it is that they are, because they're busy being wherever the thoughts go, wherever the emotions go, and wherever attracts them or repels them goes. And that's who they are. They're scattered all over the place. That's the reason you center your consciousness. You center your consciousness in order to get your being back. It's that simple. What has meaning is the centering of your consciousness, is the willful, conscious intent of maintaining your being so that you're there. You can be there all the time. What does it mean to be there? It means that something starts to distract your consciousness, a thought, a feeling, or something outside, and before your consciousness goes with it, it asks permission. For all practical purposes, it just stops for a moment and permits you to be aware that you're about to lose your consciousness to the object. And you decide, do you want to? What an amazing moment. You're given the moment of free will. Do I want my consciousness going there? Maybe you say yes. Guess what? When you're conscious enough, even when it goes there, your awareness of being goes with it. It never fully goes on its own. You are always there, aware. I'm going to put my consciousness here. I'm going to put my consciousness there. But it's a place you put your consciousness. It's a place you permit your consciousness to go. It is not something it does without your choice, and it does it for as long as you want it to do it. You never lose it. You never ever lose it ever again for the rest of your life. That's what losing it means, by the way. You lose your center and your consciousness gets involved in emotion and you're not there anymore. It gets involved in a thought. Oh boy, he got lost in his thoughts. It gets involved in some external activity of fear or passion. It's gone. As opposed to, here I am and I'm playing tennis. I'm doing this. I'm saying this. Even when you're talking, you are aware of what you're about to say before you say it. You are aware how much you're talking. You're aware of your tone of voice. You're aware of every single thing that is going on while it's happening. You're not stopping it. It's not a control freak. You're just conscious. And at some point you will feel that your talking has lost its meaning. It lost its power. And you'll stop. Why? Because it lost its power. You don't ever find yourself on autopilot. You're a conscious being. That is what it means to grow spiritually. You become a conscious being. Now, this becomes your spiritual practice. If you want to do all the other techniques, by all means, do them. But at least understand their meaning. Their meaning is to gain the discipline so that what you said was going to happen is happening, to get focus. At some point, do the real practice. What's the real practice? Awareness of being. Are you aware of every step you take all day? Or do you just walk? I'm challenging you. A normal state for a spiritual being is there is not a single physical step, that takes place all day that you are not aware of your foot going down on that ground. That you do not feel your heel and then your toe touching that ground all day, every single step you take. There is no autopilot. There is no talking that's going on without you knowing that you're talking. There is no walking going on without you knowing that you're walking. There is no eating going on without you knowing you're eating. There is nothing going on without the all-seeing eye knowing that that is what is taking place. So when you walk, be aware that you're walking. What's so hard about that? You're going to get up, you're going to walk from here to the door. What happens is you're not walking. You're in your thoughts. You're in your emotions. You're attracted or repulsed by something. And body is walking. You can tell whether a conscious being is walking or unconscious being is walking. It's amazing. You can just feel the energy. A conscious being, when they walk, it's quiet. An unconscious being, when they walk, they don't even know if they're stomping or if they're quiet or if they're anything. They don't know anything. There's nothing going on. The mind is active, and however the mind is how the step is. If the mind is quiet, the step is quiet. If the mind is agitated, the step is agitated. Ever noticed? I mean, you watch somebody walk. You don't walk the same pace all the time. You don't carry yourself the same way. When you are conscious, you are all times aware of what is going on. You are aware. So you start with this thing called awareness of being. As you become more aware of your being, you become enlightened. Why? Because that's what your being is. Your being is awareness, and the awareness is universal. So how do you practice awareness of being? That's the easiest of all things. You are conscious all the time. There is never a moment that you are not conscious. The question is, what are you conscious of? Why not be conscious willfully of what's going on? Your consciousness is the greatest gift that was ever given to you. Without your consciousness, you don't even exist, do you? What are you doing with that gift? You're pouring it on the ground without a container every moment of every day. It's just going wherever it goes. The most powerful, the most wonderful, the most awesome thing that could ever be, awareness of being, consciousness. That is the essence of your life. The whole game is to bring it back to your center. Bring it back to your being. Practice the presence of consciousness, the presence of being. So mantra is one way. Should you want to play with that? It's fun. Just play with it. Bring it back there. That's when you start to see how many thoughts you have. At least give them some competition. You start giving them competition, you'll come to me and you won't like me anymore. Why'd you tell me to do that? My life's been hell since then. I'll bet it has. Because you decided to stand up against it. You decided to sit there and try to regain your kingdom. And bam, they're just thoughts are going all over the place. This will make you see that. That's one thing. But I'm telling you, this walking thing's easier. From now on, every single time you go to walk, pay attention that you're walking. Feel your feet touch the ground. Now what you're going to find is, you're going to come to me and say, that's hard. Now that's embarrassing. Why would that be hard? See, you win either way. You win either because it's easy and you get to do it, or you win because it's hard and you get to see that it's hard, and that's absurd. Why would it be hard? Well, the first reason it's going to be hard is you won't remember to do it. That's embarrassing. Hey, you remember to eat, all right? You remember to call your girlfriend, you remember to do things you want to do. Well, don't you remember you're walking? So you first start with conditioning yourself to remember. Okay, fine, just do it, it's fun. Then you're going to find you have competition. Your thoughts are your competition. You'll start walking, and your thoughts will just start, and you won't know that you're walking anymore. And I want you to see that. I want you to see that you're losing your life. It's bleeding away into nothing because there's no consciousness. If you're not going to be conscious, why bother being alive? You're not experiencing anything. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off your consciousness, but your whole body will still go through its entire life. You get to get married, you get to have children, but you won't be there. Then at the end, we'll turn it on, and we'll say, see what happened? How would you like that? No, I don't like that very much. I missed the whole thing. Where was I? I was sleep living instead of sleepwalking. That's what you're doing. Unless you're here, you're not here. You're lost in your thoughts. So you start practicing the presence of being. That is a spiritual practice. Your spiritual practices are 24/7. It's not something you do for an hour a day or 2 hours a day. It's something you do all day. So we started with walking. When you're walking, you pay attention. Your feet touch the ground. You think, but be aware that you're walking. Practice that. And what you'll have to do is struggle with your thoughts. You'll have to struggle with your ability to maintain your center of consciousness. You'll think that what you gain from that is that you get to experience walking, which is good. It's fun. Walking is nice. You get to experience things. No. What you're going to gain with every one of these practices is you're bringing awareness, consciousness to bear, to being. And you will start to realize that's who you are. You are awareness. And as your consciousness focuses and centers into the center of your being, your whole insides will open up, your spirit will open up, and you'll begin to feel tremendous spiritual power and spiritual energy as your consciousness no longer spills out on the ground. So one, you'd be walking. If you want to play with mantra, you want to play with doing something with your thoughts, when it's said and done, and I'm serious, there is a state, and I want you there, that not a single thought, conscious or subconscious, you literally watch that which used to be your subconscious try to hide from your conscious. That's how conscious you are. There are thoughts that are in front, and there are thoughts that are trying to hide in the shadows behind, but you're looking right at them, and you see them trying to hide in the shadows. That's what Freud wanted to call your subconscious. The trouble is, you're too conscious for there to be a subconscious. Yogananda said, when it's all said and done, there is no subconscious. And he's right. There is no subconscious mind. There's mind. And then there's consciousness is willing to look at part of mind and not willing to look at the other part of mind. The part that consciousness is willing to look at, we call the conscious mind. The part that consciousness is not willing to look at is the subconscious mind. It's absurd. All you have to do is decide you're willing to look at all of mind, and there's no more subconscious. That's how you work with this. It's all about consciousness. You are to be aware of your thoughts. More important than meditation, but you won't be able to do it without meditation. You are to be aware of every single thought that gets created all day. And you are to decide willfully whether you want to go with a thought or whether you don't. It's your choice. You don't find yourself in a thought. You find yourself noticing a thought being created and deciding whether you want to put energy in it or not. And boy, it's fun when you play at that level. You'll sit there and you'll have a thought of a certain kind. All of a sudden the thought comes up. You decide, all right, we'll look at that for a minute. And then another thought comes up in opposition to that thought. Like you think, well, I could do that. Then you feel guilt or fear or shame or desire or memory. One thought generates a bunch of thoughts. And then the next thing you know, you have a thought, and then you have another thought. Well, I could go off and do this. Then it thinks, yeah, but so-and-so wouldn't like if I did that. Or then you start to feel fear. You start to feel anxiety. You start to feel jealousy. You start to feel guilt. Just all of a sudden, emotions start because you had a thought. Do you watch that all day? Do you notice that your thoughts cause your emotions and your emotions cause your thoughts? Is it quiet enough to where every single one is seen by you? And you decide you want to go there or you don't want to go there. Because that is where you have to get if you want out. Why? Well, it's obvious. If these thoughts and emotions create themselves and they capture your consciousness and they pull your consciousness into them and you don't have any control over it, well, then you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay there. You're a prisoner. You're a prisoner of your emotions and thoughts because they captured your consciousness. You don't get to be who you want to be. You don't get to be yourself. You have to be busy being in those thoughts. What if you have a problem? If you got a serious problem, a sickness, of this, don't think about it. Can you not think about a serious problem? You just sit there and decide. is there any purpose to be thinking about this? Maybe it's not its time. Maybe it's not anything, right? Like, what's the purpose of dwelling on something that has no purpose to dwell on at this point? You're a rational person. So you just sit there and you look at it and you say, okay, I'm not going to dwell on that. Can you? Can you just sit there and every time it tries to come up, say, no, thank you, but no thank you. And keep your consciousness where you want it so that that thing just fades the minute it starts. That is what it means to be a yogi. You understand that? And a yogini. You're a conscious being. It has to do with your awareness of being. It has to do whether when you walk, you know you're walking. It has to do with when you talk, you know you're talking. Or is what's going on in there, as it is for most people, is it's so uncomfortable in there. It is such a mess in there that all you do is want to lose yourself so you don't have to deal with it. So when you talk, you lose yourself in your talking. When you walk, you lose yourself. If you can have a decent thought, you'll lose yourself in those thoughts. A yogi never loses themselves. Never. A yogi wants to be conscious, no matter what it is in there, bad, good, or indifferent. There is no hiding from it. What a yogi does is sit in there. Now thoughts come, emotions come, form comes. But you are completely involved in what matters to you, which is self, being, essence, consciousness, radiance of your inner self. And that's where you live. And you should be able to live there when you're outside, when you're inside, no matter what's going on. People talk about the importance of meditation and spiritual practices. They are important, but they are important because they give you the ability to do this. Until you can do this, you will never be free. It is not a matter of taking weekends and going off and doing some retreat somewhere. It is a matter of every minute of every single day. This is who you are. You are consciousness, and you are aware that you are consciousness. And consciousness can get involved in thoughts, and consciousness can get involved in emotions, and consciousness can get involved in this world. Or it can't. It is its choice. It's consciousness. You shine your light where you want. And if there should be something that you're struggling with, what does that mean, struggling with? Somehow it has a hold on you. You don't want to be involved in it, but it keeps drawing you into it. I mean, what is that? You are your own being. How dare a thought own you? Who does it think it is? How dare an emotion own you? How could anything in this world own you? You are your being. And so you work with that way. If something can still own you, it's your best friend. It is your best friend. If something can scare you enough to where you have trouble not being involved in it, if something can attract you enough to where you have trouble not being involved in it, be they thoughts, emotions, or form, you look it right in the eye and you say, we'll see how long that lasts. It won't change in 1 minute, but you know to the bottom of your being, there is no way you're going to get owned by anything. How can that which you're looking at own you? You're the light, you're consciousness. How could you let yourself be owned by something below you? And so you look at it and you realize, my God, this thing's got a habit-formed draw on me. That won't last. And you play with it. How? Every time it moves, you let it go. You got that straight? I'm not telling you to suppress it and push it away. That doesn't work. You play with it. That's different than suppressing it. Play with it means your days are numbered. You can draw on me all you want. I'm going to keep letting go. I'm going to keep letting go. Every once in a while, you'll draw too far. I'll get back. I'm letting go. It's like riding a horse. You know, throw you a few times, you get back on. But when it's said and done, you're well aware who's going to win. There ain't no way you're not going to ride that horse. There is no way that anything is going to own your consciousness. Anything. As you work with this, with your walking, with your talking, with a mantra, with meditation, whatever it is, you liberate yourself. A true spiritual being, every single day is different than they were the day before. And you are aware of that. You are aware that the next day you are not the same person that you were the day before. How could that be? You're more centered. If you're doing what I just said every day, there's no way that every day you're not better at it than you were the day before. If you lift weights and you can only lift 145 pounds, I guarantee you if I add an ounce a day, just an ounce, not a pound, an ounce, You won't feel it. But if I come back in 20, 30 days, I guarantee you'll be lifting more than you were when I was there 20 days ago. And in fact, every day you'll lift more, won't you? And you won't even notice it. It is the same thing with this. If you do these practices 24/7, you are constantly conscious. That's what you're doing with your life. Work, play, this, that, every single thing. You're aware of what's going on and playing with it. If you do that, then every day you practiced. Because practice makes perfect, you're better at it the next day. The very fact that he yelled at you and you lost it for a little while and you got back up and caught yourself means tomorrow you'll be better at that. Practice makes perfect. And what a yogi is practicing every single minute of every day is consciousness, is awareness of being, is the center of their essence. Is it clear? It's fun, isn't it? That's what you're doing. I don't know why you need anybody to teach you. Just do it. Just play. Have fun. It's a video game. It doesn't need instructions. I like the video games I don't play any of them anyway, never did, but they tell me there are ones that they don't come with instructions. You just start using it and you don't even know where it's going or what you're supposed to be doing. It's like an interactive experience. That's what this is. Except that you have one clarity. I gave you the clue. It's all about how present you are. It's all about whether you're in charge or your thoughts are, or your emotions are, or form is. There's nothing wrong with form. There's nothing wrong with thoughts. There's nothing wrong with emotions. But there's something seriously deficient about you not being there. This is your life. Can you be present all the time? Until when I say to you, were you aware of every single thought that passed through your mind today? You look at me and smile instead of laugh at me. You were aware of every single thought that passed through your mind today. Very good. It's called the practice of the presence of being. The practice of the presence of being. Jagradav.